and Metroid film than whatever Illumination could pull off. These franchises have different needs than Mario when it comes to translating them to the big screen, and the focus should be on finding a studio or filmmaker that would help them flourish. Or alternatively, we could always just let a studio tonally does not mesh with these IPs, rush them out into existence, just for the sake of making a big crossover film. That sounds like a great idea. I genuinely don't get why it's hard to grasp that different Nintendo franchises have different tones, and thus wouldn't really work when shoved together. But what about Smash Bros, you might ask? Nintendo already proved that they can have their franchises cross over with it being wildly successful. So why can't they do the same thing in a movie? Quick question. Do you play Smash Bros for the story? These universes are so fundamentally incompatible that the lore of Smash Bros is that all of these fighters are just toys. Everything in the series is just a kid playing with his figurines and making them all fight each other. None of this is canon to any of these franchises, except arguably Kid Icarus. And I shudder to think of a movie adaptation that tries to actually justify the way these characters and universes would collide. And before you say that Subspace Emissary exists, and that's proof that Smash Bros. Could have a story that works for a movie, I am once again asking you to get real. Subspace's plot is scattered and all over the place. It's hard to tell what's going on or what anyone's motivation is. But it doesn't really matter, since the appeal is just watching your favorite Nintendo characters meet each other and team up. Would this really work in a movie format, though? I don't really see it, especially when you have to juggle the previously established goofy tone of Mario with a slightly more serious tone of Zelda and the way more mature Metroid franchise. You just can't make a film that would satisfy all three of those audiences in one movie. And that's not even getting into how many other franchises there are, all with their own tonal differences. Subspace kind of pulled this sort of crossover off tonally, but it also had the benefit of not having to follow any previous game in any series continuity-wise. These aren't the same Mario characters or Zelda characters we followed in a previous story. They are toys! There was a lot less story baggage involved with making Subspace Emissary that you suddenly would get if you wanted a huge shared universe that leads into a crossover film. Then there's the fact that Shigeru Miyamoto was heavily involved in the creation of the Mario movie. So, with a Smash Bros. Movie, it's kind of assumed that they would want to involve series creator Masahiro Sakurai. And I just can't see this hard-working, meticulous man wanting to trust Illumination with his child. He is the Smash franchise. More so than Miyamoto is the Mario franchise, considering how expansive it is and how little he's been involved in recent titles. Ultimately, Nintendo has the final say in whether to make a Smash Bros. Movie, and they can do it with or without Sakurai. But they've never done a Smash game without him before. I can't imagine a world where they don't want him heavily involved in a Smash film. And I don't know, he seems to be enjoying the break he's taking right now, just making YouTube videos. Would he want to dedicate years of his life to working with an American animation studio and making sure that they get every little detail consistent with the universe he created? Maybe, but it just doesn't feel all that likely to me. Finally, I hate to sound old-fashioned, but why can't a movie just be a movie anymore? Why can't a film exist without having to be part of a larger cinematic universe? Especially considering how we've seen in the past few years that only one cinematic universe has actually been successful. The MCU had a plan from the beginning, a tone that clicks together across all of its movies, and a consistent level of quality. At least for its first 3 movies. The same can't really be said for the DC universe, or the Dark universe. Yeah, remember when that was a thing? Nintendo may have a huge crossover franchise under their belt with Smash, but a crossover franchise is not the same as a shared universe. Mario should just stick to Mario. They shouldn't have to strain themselves creatively to try and think of justification to bring these characters to the same story as Peach and Xenoblade. With all that said, I'm gonna go ahead and undermine my why can't a movie just be a movie question, because I honestly do think the Mario movie could very well be a great basis for a shared universe. And that universe is the Mario movie. There is so much across this gigantic franchise's history from our movie, to the point where it's kind of absurd that when Zelda
Take flight!
How about Daisy, Rosalina, Mario, Waluigi, or Yoshi? How about an adaptation of Galaxy or Sunshine or even one of the RPGs. And then there's the obvious. Charlie Day and Seth Rogen have gone on record saying that they would love a Luigi Mansion and Donkey Kong Country film, respectively. And like, yeah, why not? It's very different from the idea of a Smash Bros. Film that brings a bunch of franchises together, since both of these movies would be spin-offs derived from the Mario movie, which is a much more sensible thing to ask for. And like, just from a personal preference point of view, I love a good spin-off. Not only can I enjoy a banger movie that completely stands on its own, like Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, but now, when I go back to Shrek 2, it's so much cooler knowing what's in store for this character later down the line. It enhances an already great movie since I have a better translation depth of these characters, which makes it all the more exciting when we live how we started on the screen. The same applies to the character of Saul Goodman. Actually, we watched Better Call Saul recently, and don't I appreciate it, because I actually kind of love it, you know? But it makes me listen Breaking Bad such a treat since it reframes the one-dimensional silly lawyer man as one of the most nuanced, layered, and tragic characters in the entire universe. When I'm interacting goofy with Walter and Jesse, I constantly find myself wondering if it's a facade and if he's thinking about Chuck or Kim at any given moment. It's absolute hell. I love it. Spin-offs that just exist to be good standalone stories, rather than stepping stones to a huge crossover event, are awesome. Plus, I felt like Donkey Kong, especially Luigi, were underutilized on the movie, so giving them their own film in order to better flesh them out would be great. Illumination could totally handle it, as well as any other future Mario spin-offs sequels, like stuff based on Yoshi's Island or Wario. It's not nearly as much of a stretch for them as a franchise that keep written. So, this is my best case scenario when it comes to the future of Nintendo animation. Illumination sticks with Mario and the insanely vast universe and cast of characters that we pull from there, and the other Nintendo franchises are given to more appropriate studios to build those. Not all of them need to be done by American studios either. We might want to do that with the heavy hitters like Zelda, since it would probably make them the most money overseas. But please, for the love of God, give us an anime series based on Fire Emblem Three Houses, Xenoblade, or Kid Icarus Uprising. Those games have stories that would suit the medium of television so much better than film. And there's so many anime studios out there that would do a great job with these properties. And if you want to give Illumination another IP, maybe they could make something half decent out of Kirby or Splatoon. I'd also say Pikmin, but actually no, I don't trust anyone with Pikmin. Leave it alone. But the main thing I want to express is that Smash Bros. Should be off the table. It would creatively be a disaster, the tone would be a mess, it would potentially sacrifice getting quality adaptations of multiple other beloved franchises just for the sake of an obligatory shared universe. The fan base will probably complain when they don't get the rights to literally every third-party series from the game, and Sakurai deserves a nap. Not having to be saddled with giving creative directions to the guys who made the Minions. I would sooner take a gritty, adrenaline-fueled live-action adaptation of Ice Climber than a Smash Bros. Movie. Actually, that Ice Climber idea sounds pretty good. Like, what else are they doing with the IP? Why not make it? Okay, I'm gonna go pitch that to Nintendo now, so that's about it. Good. Try stay there. Oh, and for the next Smash game, I'm really hoping for Squarespace. Maybe not for players, since I've heard they have, but definitely you can design your own website and then collect on said website. That would be pretty rad. Speaking of which, let me tell you more about Squarespace. Squarespace is a fantastic, intuitive, online website builder that allows you to create beautiful websites for your business or personal hobby. Present your work using Squarespace's professional portfolio designs. Display projects in customizable galleries and add password-protected pages to share private works with clients. You can even present your videos from YouTube, Vimeo, and Animoto on the Squarespace site. Add an image overlay to your video to improve your website's load speed by waiting to embed video players until playback starts. Every design automatically includes a unique mobile presence that matches the overall style of your website, so your content will look great on every device, every time. And if you don't want that, you can always disable the mobile view from Website Manager. Buying a domain from Squarespace is so simple because there are no hidden fees or price hikes. Each domain comes with an ad-free parking page and free WHOIS privacy on eligible domains. Squarespace sells over 200 top-level domains, so you can find the perfect name for your website. Choose a URL that ends in .com, .net, .org, or you can always get a more specific one like
Steambird is an excellent publication. They have many outstanding journalists, and the editor-in-chief is always open to new ideas. But most importantly, they pay their writers on time. There are lots of journalists in the Court of Fontaine, but not all of them hold themselves to a high professional standard. If you're ever looking to do an interview, I'm your best choice.
What a beautiful team play, boys!
But despite this foot brawler being polished, well-named, and fun across the board, it was dead in the water less than 1 month after. This is the story of a game that fell apart despite taking basically every box of its incredible title. This is Omega Strikers.
Disgusting.
Omega Strikers is a free-to-play action sports game developed and published by Odyssey Interactive, a new studio started by 4 former leads at Riot Games. The game has teams of 3 players, each playing a character with their own unique abilities, who fight against each other while attempting to score as many goals as possible.
People call Omega Strikers like the sort of like short, snappy version, like Rocket League of Legends, right? It's kind of a sports-like, chaotic, MOBA-esque 3 versus 3 brawling game. It's got elements of air hockey, just where the sports comes in and kind of just a fast-paced, knock 'em around, beat 'em up type of gameplay. And then it's got, like ability-based character gameplay and that type of thing.
The game first became playable on Steam through a closed beta on September 16, 2022, and entered open beta shortly afterwards. Right off the bat, the game was met with praise because it was easy to pick up, but also its distinct and fun gameplay, which featured a unique roster of characters.
We really just focused on trying to take those best lessons from something like Overwatch, something like My Hero, and mix them together to create really like a vision for competition in the game that would be more, we use the term like hopeful and energetic, were like the 2 keywords throughout our development. And that was really to reflect the nature of the game. Like when we played Omega Strikers, that's how we felt. And so we wanted to develop a world that complemented that.
With such a great first impression, it felt like the game was set up for success. To make sure you could play with your friends anytime and anywhere, the game was set to release on all consoles as well as mobile devices, which the game was built specifically for.
I think like in the West, we've seen a lot of games in recent years. In recent years, I'm thinking of like when we started the studio in 2020, like PUBG Mobile, Call of Duty Mobile, Fortnite, like have become some of the largest games in the world because of the mobile platform. And I think for us it was like let's not put the blinders on and forget that mobile's a platform that like real gaming happens on.
To help build up hype and excitement for the game, Odyssey Interactive announced a Creator Versus event where players could rep their favorite content creators and earn points for their team by playing and winning games.
There's only one person to be worried about, and it's Shaka. Everybody else is an NF,
Hard-hitting exclusive!
At the stake for the creators was an in-game skin based on them as well as a percentage of the game's revenue for content creators that came in the top 3 in the first season. In the end, the event was overwhelmingly won by Voice Critical, with Raykin and Lily Pichu coming in 2nd and 3rd. Thanks to the amazing initial response to the game, as well as the success of the Creator Versus event, Omega Strikers was able to hit a peak of 19,236 players, while averaging 10,000 players throughout the first month of the open beta. However, despite the fantastic start, there were a few issues that began to creep up, the biggest being player retention, which saw steep drops in the game's player base in the following months. Odyssey themselves addressed this in a blog post, disclosing their plans leading up to the official launch of the game. There, they highlighted 2 main goals. The first was to increase variety from game to game. Every match should feel fresh and interesting, always with something new to learn or experience. Second was to add appreciable, moment-to-moment depth to the gameplay. Matches should not simply come down to who's better at winning strike wars. In the same post, it was announced that the game would end its open beta and go offline in January to focus on its official release in February. However, the game was ambitious and planned to launch on every single console. So Odyssey pushed back the official launch 2 months to sometime in April. promising that the wait would be worth it by showcasing some of the upcoming features such as map hazards and character buffs. Finally, on February 8th, fans got their next big update through a Nintendo Direct.
Duke it out in this free-to-play online multiplayer showdown.
Revealed within was the game's launch date, releasing on all platforms April 27th, along with some more changes and additions to the game that were detailed through a blog post.
Go on. You have my approval.
Yeah, basically.
Throughout the lead-up to its official release, Odyssey continued to drive home the point that they were doing everything in their power to make players want to come back and keep playing the game. To help build the hype, Odyssey announced that they would be running the Creator Versus event once again, and that they would be working with Studio Trigger, the animation team behind Kill la Kill, Cyberpunk Edgerunners, and other amazing animes, to create a music video to promote the official release of the game.
Through a member of the team had a contact at Trigger. I hit him up, and I was like, hey, we would like to work with you guys in the future. I thought that it was really low probability that anything ever comes of this, but I'm like, you know what? It's like our favorite anime studio. We've been dreaming to work with them. We think the IP is a perfect fit for their style. And then at one point, he was just like, you know what? Everyone at Trigger's played the game. They love it. We're in.
With all the marketing and the return of the Creator Versus event, Omega Strikers officially released on April 27th on all platforms and hit a peak just shy of 14,000 players on Steam. Throughout its first month, it averaged around 7,000 players, which is pretty good. Unfortunately, that 7,000 turned to 3,000, and then less than 1,000 pretty quickly. And by November 3rd, barely 6 months after the game's initial release, Odyssey Interactive announced that they would be moving away from Omega Strikers and shifting their focus to a new game.
By the end of the year, the full Odyssey team is pivoting to work on new games set in the Omega Strikers universe. I think our next update? Stop making new content updates for Omega Strikers.
So what went wrong? How could a game that was universally praised and super fun struggle to grow and maintain a player base? Well, one of the big issues the game faced was one of perception. Although the gameplay was unique, it still drew comparisons to other games and genres, such as League of Legends and Dota in the MOBA genre. This was due in part to its isometric camera perspective and similar controlling, which unfortunately did more harm than it did good for the game.
But the fact that it shares those conventions, I think people do immediately look at it and go, right? And so there was like, there's definitely a bit of a learning there, and we'll probably apply that to future stuff. I'm thinking about like, why do people feel that way about, the camera and this type of thing, when they don't like, look at a first-person camera and go like, shooter, like I can sort of go that way, right?
Like, it's second nature to us as kind of developers from Riot who grew up in the League of Legends and, even before that RTS, like StarCraft era, that isometric is an angle that works and there's all these cool things that you can do with it. But it does have one really big challenge, and it's marketability.
And the word MOBA just had an absolute stench on it. Like, people turn away from it. So, we tried out different descriptions for the game, and we didn't want to call it a MOBA. We were like, let's try it. And anytime we used that language, the interest in the kiddo would just plummeted. That word smells like, Cheeto dust, I think. It's a little stale. And it has a bunch of, very specific associations that wouldn't even be accurate for our game, right? Like, there's no lighting and hours, all this sort of thing.
In addition, many criticized the game for feeling too competitive, which was amplified by the fact that the game lacked a proper tutorial to help players understand the mechanics and the objectives. The decision to launch on all platforms also created constraints for the game itself, as it meant that Omega Strikers had to be playable on mobile devices and function just as well as the console versions.
When we started designing the game, we basically said, let's design it to work on mobile. And we did, and I thought we made an awesome mobile game. But then down the road, having made that decision, when we wanted to make changes to make the game deeper or, more replayable
I remember
on
there's
PC
some
or console,
pressure
which
I
we
had.
found to be the primary platforms that people were playing Omega Strikers on, so many of those initial decisions that we made to work on mobile then put us in a corner where we couldn't do the right things for console.
I wish there was a Heroes Path mode for this game.
And so I think the biggest lesson to me from that, for really anybody probably starting any kind of project,
I know it's in a ruin somewhere.
Is we have to be more selective about where we want it to be successful.
We had support, from the publishers, the platform holders, particularly Nintendo, was just so great to us. But when it came to spending more budget, we had to deal with more spread free. So I think, we've been able to kind of focus our energy on fewer places. that would have helped. I don't know if it would have been the difference maker, but it's one of those things where you think, boy, this could have been easier, for sure.
Despite the huge undertaking of trying to market a game across multiple platforms and pretty limited resources to back it up, it's easy to say that Odyssey didn't stand a chance at all from the start. But they did make the most of what they had, and created some great content through their Creator Versus event and the collaboration with Studio Trigger.
I think we did about as well as you could possibly do as an indie developer with our marketing. Like, from what we were able to do with content creators, where we basically created an event that was like so wild and out there, and created like so many interesting narratives, like, you know, Moist coming to take on the whole country of Brazil. Like, that's the kind of thing that I think, like, we did something there that was like beneficial for us, but also beneficial for the content creators in a lot of ways, because they could create stories and engage their communities in like these fun and interesting ways. And like, I think we did quite a good job with that. We did a really good job with the stuff that we did with Trigger. Like, that's a dream come true for us in so many ways that it's like, you know, impossible to describe, really. And I think that at the end of the day, the challenge just ended up being that we had a product that wasn't quite ready, for whatever reason, for the market.
Unfortunately, Omega Strikers never lived up to the hype, and what looked like the next big potential thing in esports fell to the wayside. But the game's not dead yet. It still receives the occasional update, and still regularly has around 500 people playing it. So, if you want to try Omega Strikers out for yourself, you can still download it on, well, any platform of your choosing. Still, Odyssey Interactive has made the decision to move its resources onto a new game, taking away many lessons and positives from their time working on Omega Strikers.
Despite, you know, the shortcomings that we may have had, I don't think that anyone feels like we, for lack of a term, like half-assed it. Like, when we look at the response from our community, like every single patch that we put out, when we like read the feedback from people in the Discord, people are impassioned. People feel like we cared as a dev team, because we do care. Because like, we're gamers ourselves, and we didn't get in here to like make a quick buck. We got in here because we want to make amazing experiences. And I think like you can feel that from the game design to the character design to like every element of our marketing. Like I think for me, one of the biggest things that I should be proud of is like that kind of expression of authenticity kind of across the experience. I think we're just trying to take all of those lessons that we've learned of Strikers, from development to marketing, basically all over the shop, and make sure that like we're able to give something to players next time around that's got longer legs for the future. Because for us as a studio, like, Omega Strikers taught us so many great things, and hopefully provides us with a lot of great things for the future, like the characters, but we have to do better in a lot of ways as a developer. I'm like optimistic that we can do it. Like, I think if anyone's got a shot, it's us. You know, that's a big challenge, and it's something that we'll be working on and trying to prove for the course of the next probably 2 to 3 years.
I think right now that there's a community of people that come around this game that believe in us and that are going to be with us, you know, on the journey to the next one. And I hope we can keep them. I hope we can, you know.
Okay, yeah, this was a terrible idea.
They're interested in what we're doing, like, you know, come along for the ride. Because at some point, we got some stuff cooking, alright? We were playtesting today for like a couple hours, and it was pretty fun. I'm not going to say anything else, but there will be playtests, right? I mean, we're making more games. So, I hope that people come along for the ride and that we keep this kind of positive. We'll keep it real with you, you know. We'll make the best game we can, and hopefully make something.
Hey, if you enjoy videos like this one, make sure to subscribe and ring the bell to stay up to date. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video and want to learn about another foot brawler, check out our video about the esports scene for Super Mario Strikers, which you can find in the description. We hope you enjoy. Shouts out to Cloud, Steph, B, Pass, Shampoo, and Yashiji for being patrons of the channel. If you enjoyed this video, leaving a like, subscribing, and hitting the bell to stay up to date is much appreciated. My name is Jonah. Thanks for watching.
Astra. Thank you for complete. Ad Astra.